Shane, well, you've had a fair bit of a layoff, and how good is it to be back in the mix?
Yeah, it's feeling. To me, it's like the best feeling in the world. It's really good because after the layoff, it's been almost 7 months. It's going to be 8 months by the time the fight comes. Gave me a lot of time to kind of get settled into the next part of being a fighter. Well, I've broken through. Like a big goal of mine was to make it into the UFC, and now I'm here. I've got to kind of readjust things, evaluate where I'm at, and then set my new priorities. Because at this level, you got to be a supreme athlete. You got to take care of your mental state and stuff like that, and you always got to be on. There's no more off season for me now until I'm retired. It's just on. So I've got to it was a good period to adjust, get ready for that, and now that I'm 1 month out from this fight, all I'm thinking is 2 more fights this year. That's all I know.
Well, you were on a roll when the injury happened, and then you were up against a fighter who's gone on. He's won 14 in a row now, so that must be enlightening to you. Say, hey, he's beaten a lot of good fellas after he beat me, and I went the distance with him, and a lot of them haven't.
Yeah, it was really encouraging because in the median time between my fight with Volko and his next fight, I was really beating myself up because I was looking at the performance based against all my fights, over the last 10 years, and it was definitely the worst performance only because it was 8 days notice against a top 20 guy in the world, in the UFC, again, in front of 12,000 people, all of that stuff. But when I looked at it objectively, I was like, oh, that's a terrible fight. But now, even in hindsight, considering all the context that I had of the situation, it was a really good fight compared to the rest of the guys that he's fought, because he's finished them all on the ground, and he managed to not really hold me down any longer than a couple of minutes. Not even, I think 2 minutes was the max, yeah.
Now, you talk about the layoff. Has that been, and you say it's not a bad thing, what is the positive thing? Is it more mental or physical that you think you would have gained by having that spell?
I think it's definitely both. It has to be both because I've been doing our it's not new, but the conditioning system that we have implemented here at CKB, which has been developing in the last 2 years, and it's really in a good spot. And in the last 6 weeks, I've really got lots of gains physically as an athlete, but I think the biggest was definitely mental because it gave me time to, like I said, readjust and prepare to be a UFC superstar, basically. Because there's certain things that you can't do when you're here. On the come up, you can do sort of things, and you can get away with doing sort of things because you might, you level out to your competition. But now I'm aiming to be better than them, so I'm aiming for the very top. So I got to always be pushing for that. Yeah.
And what do you know about your opponent?
I know that he will be buying me a drink after the fight to say thanks for beating my ass up, teaching me a good lesson. That's all I know.
Hey, thanks, mate. And thanks for talking to us, and wish you all the best.
Sweet as.
Yeah.
Thanks, COMBATTV. Cheers, bro.
Yeah.